Guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be talking about first trimester pregnancy symptoms and tips on how to deal with those symptoms. I have 14 symptoms that I experienced during pregnancy, so buckle up. We're going to go through them all. And I have a tip for each and every single one that can help you ladies out. The first one is that my boobs hurt, and this happened around 3 weeks. It was probably my first symptom, and it wasn't like, oh, my boobs hurt all freaking day or like whatever. It was like when you take off that man-made contraption of a torture chamber that we like to call a bra at the end of the day. And like gravity takes hold, then it's like sore. And especially if you go to sleep right after, like the pressure on them, they were pretty sore. The thing about this symptom is they say it usually goes away at the end of your first trimester. My boobs stopped being sore around 7 weeks. Like it was right before my first ultrasound that I remember, and my boobs didn't hurt anymore, and I was like, oh, are they supposed to still hurt? I was like kind of worried about it, but everything was fine and they just didn't hurt anymore. The tip that I have for this is to wear a sports bra instead of an underwire or like a more supportive bra, because the more you push your boobs up, the more they're gonna hurt when you take your bra off. And I'm not kidding. So that's my tip for that. Symptom number 2 was back knee and acne. I shouldn't say was for back knee, if you catch my drift. I'm 32 weeks and I still have back knee. I'm just gonna rock it until this baby pops out. The acne really picked up early too. It was 3 weeks, and yeah, so I normally have like cystic acne, but while I was on birth control it was a lot better, and then when I got off birth control, which is like 5 months before we started trying, it got pretty bad, and then it got worse like during the first trimester. The face acne cleared up, I would say around like week 11 or 12, it started to go away, and I haven't had really anything since. It's been pretty clear on my face. Tip that I have for this is like, if you experience hormonal pregnancy acne, we are not allowed to use salicylic acid products, which is what I was using before. So you want to stay clear of that. And then the other one is like the I think it's called benzo peroxide. But the ones that are like supposed to be treating acne, they're too harsh for our skin, and they leave like chemicals, so it can affect the baby's development. So stay away from that. The third symptom that I experienced was being emotional. This happened very early too, like 3 weeks pregnant, very emotional. Like we're talking, I don't know, if we started a conversation, anything could make you cry. I think it's still happening. There's not an end date for this symptom, because I think I've just been able to like rein control a little better, or it's more expected. I don't know. My tip for this is to just cry it out. It doesn't mean like you're sad or like that you have depression or anything. It could, like later down the line, if all you do is cry and like you're really feeling down, so like check with your doctor about that. But if a commercial comes on and girl, it's emotional, and you start crying, or you cry at the movies, or say you just cry because like you really wanted ice cream and there's not any ice cream, like that's fine, do you? Like there's no judgment. Anybody that's been through pregnancy should be completely understanding of that. I have cried over the dumbest things, but at that moment, like it's not dumb. Like you just feel like you gotta cry. So just cry and it'll be fine. The fourth symptom that I have experienced in my first trimester, and it's still happening, and I'm 32 weeks, it is the insatiable hunger. This started around 4 weeks pregnant. I couldn't imagine the hunger that people were talking about. Like, people say, like, oh, you're hungry because you're pregnant and, like, you're gaining weight and you're growing a human and everything, but I didn't grasp that, like, I need to eat every, like, 2 to 3 hours. Even if you just ate, you still might be hungry, and that's fine. Like, there should be no judgment on that either. Like, you're pregnant, people need to look the other way if they think that you're eating too much. Like, bye. The tip that I have for this is to schedule eating. I normally was just eating like breakfast, lunch, maybe a snack at work, and then dinner before pregnancy. During pregnancy, I eat at 7:30 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 6 p.m., and then at like 9 p.m. So we're talking like 6 times a day. And it's just about picking different foods that are healthy, like low sugar. Make sure you up that protein because that's gonna help you get to the next scheduled meal, and then you stay on a rhythm instead of like going off the handle and like stuffing your face, which could easily happen. That kind of helps you kind of gauge like your weight gain as well throughout pregnancy, because then nothing's changing if you're still rotating the same snacks at the same time. Like, you know if your schedule went off or not. So I have found that really helpful. The next symptom is peeing a lot. So of course we hear in pregnancy that we're gonna pee a lot. I did not know that it started early. It started for me around 4 weeks as well. It's from the hormones that we have in our body that make you pee a lot, not like the baby pressing on your bladder. That comes later, and then you'll know the difference. But for that tip, I just suggest like staying near a bathroom, because it could be like you might be confused that you have a UTI, and like the doctor will always check your urine and stuff to make sure that you don't. But like 1 minute you feel fine and the next minute you're like, oh, I have to go now. I would recommend like don't going on like long drives and back roads just for funsies, because I mean, unless you're comfortable with peeing in the woods, which, you know, I've done many times. So if you're cool with that, then do that. If not, maybe stay near somewhere that has a bathroom. The next symptom is our sense of smell. This happened very early on. It was one of the symptoms that I was like looking forward to, because, you know, I've been around friends that have been pregnant and they're like, oh my God, like my boyfriend smells different, or I didn't know my house smelled like dogs, or like whatever. They were gaining like so much insight. So I noticed my sense of smell is severely heightened around 4 weeks pregnant, and I think it still continues to this day. I just think like I'm used to it now, so, you know, I don't really notice it much. But at 4 weeks pregnant, I worked in a cubicle building like that we have offices, and I could know if the girl, you know, 6 cubicles down was opening an orange. Like I was like, okay, she's on her snack break. So that happens. I mean, even at 5 weeks pregnant, like I was able to tell my employer that there was a gas leak at work. That's not even a joke. Like, I legit smelled a gas leak and was able to tell them. And then I got the freaking heck out of Dodge. Like, I went home early. I was not about to like sit there with a freaking gas leak when like I'm newly growing a human. And my husband had the flu anyway, so I went home and took care of him. At 5 weeks, I had stitches in my vagina too. Week 5 was wild, okay? But this isn't about reminiscing. The tip for your smell being enhanced is to avoid the lunchroom at work. There's a lot of people microwaving different things, and things that might smell good to you, that's great, but other things, they just don't. And I didn't have nausea during my first trimester, and even like the smells coming out of that lunchroom was like pushing me to the limit that I would have to leave the room, or I would even gag sometimes. Like, it was pretty bad. The next symptom was shivering, that I thought it was extremely cold all the time. Granted, it was winter. I live in Ohio, so we're talking December, January. It was maybe like 15 degrees outside, but I've always lived in Ohio, so I'm pretty used to that. But I could not like control my body temperature. Like, well, I don't know if it's my body temperature, but just like shivering all the time. Like, if I got out of the shower, if I got out of the car, if I took my coat off at work. And it was to the point that even my toes would like start tingling and turn purple. And I've had frostbite in the past, so that might be me too. But I would have to like actively try to move my toes around so I don't lose feeling in them, turn on like hot water to put my feet in, that sort of thing. Like, make sure that my hands aren't turning blue in any sort of way, just because in pregnancy, with all of the extra blood volume, it's being redirected to the baby because the baby needs it most. So like our little fingertips and our toes and everything, they're not that important. So they like redirect the blood flow. So I think that has a lot to do with the shivering as well. So that's why I counted it. Tip for shivering all the time is to just make sure that you have extra layers with you. Like an extra sweater or maybe an extra pair of socks or so forth, like I said, to like run warm water, that sort of thing on yourself if you can't stop shivering. The next symptom is sciatica. So if you don't know what sciatica is, it's the nerves in your hips. So you have a sciatica nerve, and when that nerve gets pinched or feels pressure or anything like that, you can experience like pain in your hips, running down your legs, a tingling sensation, a burning sensation, that sort of thing. This happened to me at 6 weeks. I'm normally a stomach sleeper, and so I gave up sleeping on my stomach at 5 weeks. And so when I would sleep on my side, I don't know if it was like the extra pressure of my uterus or what was going on. Maybe it was like the relax and like changing our hips, that sort of thing. But my hips would tingle, and it would get to the point that it would burn a lot. And so I would actively have to flip sides in bed. The tip that I have for this is to sleep on your back. You can sleep on your back. My doctor had me sleep on my back ending at 16 weeks. So I slept on my back for like the first trimester to kind of avoid that sensation. It would still happen if I would lay on my side watching TV, so forth. You just kind of have to accept it if that happens. And like they said, it was completely normal and fine. That symptom ended. I don't want to say ended, but it ended being persistent because I could literally like count on this happening every single night. Like, I can count on my husband farting during an argument. You know what I mean? Like, I just knew it was gonna be there. So now in the 3rd trimester, it maybe happens like 2 times a week that happens, and it doesn't last as long. It doesn't like hurt like it did. That has changed. The next symptom is food aversions. they didn't happen a lot for me. They'll still happen even now in my 3rd trimester. They'll just like pop up every so often, but it started around 6 weeks. There's nothing that can tell you, oh, you're not gonna like this food anymore. Like, we don't know. So I love tater tots, and I forget what we were having it with, but it was just the usual night that we were like making tater tots on the side. I have an air fryer, the whole shebang is pretty good, that sort of thing. I put 1 tater tot in my mouth, and I kid you not that I was like, that's the grossest thing I've ever experienced in my life. So I have said RIP to tater tots ever since that, and that was so early. And you go through different stages, like with cravings, but I haven't had really cravings, just the food aversion. So I was like eating a lot of guacamole. Now I'm like, no, I'm not putting guacamole anywhere near my palate. It just changes. So the tip that I have for that is like, if something doesn't sound good to you when you're trying to decide what to eat, like say you're like, oh, maybe I have a yogurt for lunch, like I guess I'll eat it. It doesn't sound like everything to write home about, but that's what I have for lunch. If you're feeling that kind of vibe, I'm gonna tell you, when you eat it, you're not gonna like it, and you might turn it into a food aversion, and then you're not gonna eat yogurt for the rest of your pregnancy. So just like eat what you feel like eating, satisfy those cravings, that sort of thing. The next symptom is fatigue. I think really everyone experiences this symptom during their first trimester. It really set in for me around 8 weeks, because I remember it was like after my first ultrasound. And I'm normally, before pregnancy, that I was staying up until around 10:30. And, you know, I worked 45 hours a week at that time. And so that was just usual. That I would go to sleep at 10:30, wake up at 6. That was fine. At the end of feeling this fatigue, which it ended around 14 weeks. So going into that 2nd trimester, as they say, like you get your energy back. I was going to sleep at 7:45, 7:30 at night. Like literally coming home, eating dinner, and then going to sleep. I was so tired, there was nothing I could do about it. And so that increased over time. Like I seen that like, oh, I could stay up till 8, or like I wasn't tired at 8:30 anymore, or that sort of thing. But the tip that I have for this is to pick a bedtime and stay to that bedtime. Because if you notice like you're getting tired at 9, and then you start to like, you say, oh, on the weekend I'm gonna stay up till 10. No, because your body still needs the same amount of sleep. So I would literally feel like I was gonna cry. I felt so like cranky if I went past that time that I was used to, and it would mess up my sleep cycle, because I would start having to like sleep during the day, that sort of thing. So I just recommend a routine, like stick to a routine if you can, and it can really help out with like, you know, your energy during the day. The next symptom is muscle spasms. So I thought that I started feeling my baby move around 10 weeks. Now, I know what you're saying. Like, why would she think that? Because it was like this little tapping on like below my belly button. Like it would tap, and it would be like every day. It would happen like multiple times. When it would happen, I was just like, I've never felt a baby move before, so I think this is what it is. And it would happen like consistently. When I did realize that this wasn't that happening, because the muscle spasms probably ended around like 15, 16 weeks. And sometimes it was really high, and I was like, my uterus isn't that high, so it can't be the baby moving. I don't know. It's not possible. When I did feel the baby move, I was like, oh, that was weird that I thought that. you know, because it's completely different and it's super low, it's super internal, that sort of thing when you start feeling the baby move. Now, the muscle spasms, I think, were like growing, like muscle twitches, sort of like ligament pain, but not really ligament pain because it didn't hurt. It was just like boop, boop, boop. Just like we would get in our calves or anything like that from doing a lot of activity. The tip that I have for that is, like, if you're experiencing the muscle spasms and you think that it's the baby moving, just write down when it's happening and see if there's a rhythm, that sort of thing, to kind of tell between the two. The next symptom is ligament pain, and you shouldn't underestimate ligament pain, because if you start feeling it, say you're walking and it comes on, it can get very real very fast and you'll need to sit down or like try to stretch, and so it'll go away. Ligament pain happens low, kind of by your hip bones and in your abdomen, and it's like a lightning shock. Like, you will feel it traveling down. It'll happen for a couple minutes or so, and then it can reoccur all day. The tip that I have for this is do the downward dog position, because every time I do the downward dog stretching position and your stomach like takes on a different gravity from you being on all fours, it goes away. So please get your booties in the air and stretch it out. The next symptom is stretch marks. I only gained 3 pounds during my first trimester, which is super good. And I developed stretch marks around 12 weeks. I think stretch marks goes back to genetics. I don't think there's anything that we can really do to help it. But you can try, there's like, people do use different oils. I started using the Palmer's like cocoa butter stretch mark lotion. I still use it. It can, like, just oiling or using the lotion can help out with the itchiness or tightness as well. So it might necessarily not prevent the stretch marks, because I have a lot of stretch marks by this time. But it can still help out with like kind of the side effects of the stretch marks, which is itchiness or the tightness. So that's my tip, is to still use something. The last symptom, which is very, I don't even want to say it's very rare, because my doctor has never seen it before. I have edema happening in my breasts. So what edema is a buildup of fluid under the skin that your body's not like absorbing fluid like it should. And it happened starting around 12 weeks in my breasts. You could notice it, like, I'm gonna make a whole separate video about it, because if there's someone out there that has the same thing, like, I want to know their experience. I want them to know my experience. Like, it's like the weirdest thing. I've seen 2 different breast surgeons about it. I've talked to about 3 different gynecologists about it. No one's ever had it before. I think I found 1 blog post off of Baby Center that somebody said they had it. I went through ultrasounds of my breasts, different exams. Everyone says, like, doesn't seem like there's anything bad that's causing it. It's probably just related to pregnancy. So yeah, that's all I'm really gonna go into detail about it. The only tip I have for that is, like, if it happens to you, please message me or leave me a comment, because I would love to know. It would make me feel better. And but the tip is to, like, talk to your doctor and see, like, because I feel like they should run those tests to just make sure that everything's fine. And at this time, like, I've just had to accept it, and that was it. And see, like, if it'll go away after a pregnancy, or I would assume, like, after breastfeeding even, because my boobs are still gonna change. So those are all my symptoms that I experienced during the first trimester, and my tips for every symptom. I hope you found some of them useful or even a little entertaining at this point. So I'm gonna do one for every trimester, so make sure you watch out for that. The way you can do that is hit subscribe, and you can even hit the little notification bell down there that can tell you when I upload, and like this video if you thought it was helpful. See you in my next one. Bye.